PC gaming is expensive. Gaming keyboards are expensive, depending on the quality. Gaming mice are not as expensive. Money is in short supply. Halo Reach is a game. Can we beat Halo Reach with just a mouse? So here's the mouse that I'm using for this. This is my TechNet 60 gaming mouse. It's just your bog standard mouse. I was given it for Christmas a few years ago, so it's a bit worse for wear. But it has 5 buttons, they all work for the moment. So yeah, let's go. So began the process of rebinding various keys. The left and right click remain the same. Right click remained scope, and left click remains shoot. The changes began with mouse 3, or the middle key. This became the interact. 343 also added a strange system where when you scroll up, this counts as a key press and scrolling down counts as another. On my base configuration, I used scrolling down for changing weapons, and this remained the same. Scrolling up, on the other hand, became the jump. Mouse 4, or this button, became my W, or forward key. There would only be one direction that I could move now, and that was forward. It was Order 227, there was no retreat. There was only U-turns. And mouse 5, the final button, became my armor ability. Initially I was going to have this be my melee, however, for reasons I'll say later, I decided to change it to armor abilities before starting. After a brief test to make sure that it all worked, I could throw away my keyboard and begin the campaign. And so my Spartan began his journey. One of the first things you notice with just a mouse is that you now have a free hand, which raises the question, what should you do with it? Starting out, you definitely notice the changes to the Halo Combat Sandbox. You can no longer strafe, crouch, reload, throw grenades, or melee. However, with the way a mouse works and the forward button, you can make progress into a level. Lacking any other way to express himself, Noble 6 became a puppy, jumping with joy upon finding or achieving something. With your options limited in a mouse-only playthrough, you have to be more reserved in combat. Noble Team becomes extremely helpful, drawing fire and being a great distraction during firefights. Your teammates are invincible, for now, and with most of your team fighting during early engagements, pushing through was easy and required little effort from myself. There was only guilt. The driving section following can be tricky, as turning is difficult and you lack maneuvering options with just a forward button, but with careful driving and persistence I advanced to the next section. A lot of the difficulty comes from how quickly you die on Legendary, so you have to keep in cover a lot and carefully manage your ammo. As you can't reload on demand, sometimes it's worth burning through the rest of your clip to get a reload and attack with a full clip. Ammo management is key throughout the campaign. Headshot weapons are always worth having. As you have a mouse, precision weapons are effective against grunts and jackals. For elites, make sure you have full clips and be patient and you'll eventually take them down. In the final section of this level, the zealots can offer some resistance but use cover, and George, and you'll prevail.
Question of my life.
In the second mission, push up to the top left hand side to gain the high ground. Watch out for this elite charging and meleeing you. Sprint away if needed, you coward. Once you have the top, you should be able to slowly make your way out of the base. From there we find something interesting. Armor abilities that need to be held don't work too well. This might be my mouse, but this could pose issues later. Use the target locator to take out those wraiths, and we'll find the Warthog controls a little bit better than the truck earlier. Just be sure to not run headfirst into walls. During the engagements, circle around the areas while your gunner clears out the enemies. Keep moving to avoid damage. Be cautious and persistent, and you'll eventually take them down enough for you to go in and clear them out. For the AA section, this was a bit difficult, but I found that you could use this speedrunning strat to avoid fighting the general. We left Cat to do that instead. On the way back to the base, use the same driving tactics and clear out the revenants, push inside, and we'll meet a new type of enemy, the hunters. Grab the shotgun on the wall and go to work. Maneuvering can be difficult with just a forward key. Try to use Cat as a distraction to get a shot in their exposed backs. After eventually succeeding there, the rest of the tower isn't too difficult, just be slow and cautious. Keep your shotgun and grab a DMR to take out enemies. The final section with the rockets can be hectic, but with the rockets, everything is easier. With the air vehicles destroyed, we can move on to Nightfall. Nightfall is a sniper mission and is probably the best suited mission to this challenge. Only having to really aim, we can keep back and not have to worry much about evading damage. Use regular weapons for taking out standard enemies, and save your sniper rounds for the elites. The first section elevates you so you can take out most tough enemies from the hill, but watch out if they try to flank you. After clearing out here, you can push forward. There might be some resistance, but be cautious and you should do fine. Either avoid the Gutas or let June take care of them. After that, you come across this area. While you could do the mission as normal and, defend this place, you could alternately just skip by running down the riverbed early. After this, we reach the powerhouse area. There's yet another skip we can do here. We can take this forklift and use it to clip through the door. In order to do this, we have to line up with the middle gap of the door, and then get off, and voila, another section skipped. If we head down the rest of the mission quickly enough, we'll find that no enemies spawn, and boom, we're done. That brings us to Tip of the Spear. Tip of the Spear starts off pretty easy. Use your DMR and grenade launcher wisely and you'll quickly push through. I was able to get through without dying for the first third of the mission. Get on the Warthog and use a pretty standard loot method to gradually chip away the defenses. The area around the AA gun. After getting out the enemies, you can push inside and kill the core to the turret. After that, you can get back on the Hog and sneak by this Wraith and over the bridge. Get to the factory and slowly make your way through it. If you have any grenade launcher shots left, they're useful for killing elites. With our movement so limited, killing the Zealot is out of the question. Just be careful of his concussion rifle, take out the grunts, and he'll back off. We then get to proceed to the final AA tower. After circling to clear out enemies, I realized I had this plasma launcher and used it to take control of this Wraith. I could then take it down the tower. From there we get to ride the Falcon. This is unaffected by mouse only, so just go on your standard point and click adventure. I even learned some things about this section.
Here we go. We just lost all power. We're going down.
Fascinating. Once we land, we get to launch an attack on the spire. I pushed up to the right side and used my jetpack to get up on this ledge. Turns out I wasn't applying enough pressure to hold the armor ability button. So, in short, I'm an idiot and armor abilities work fine. From here, I grabbed a beam rifle and a needle rifle, and then got stuck at this part because the game wouldn't give me any checkpoints. You die so quick on Legendary. After this, I managed to get up the tower, lure the elite away from the grunts, beam rifle his shields and pop him in the head with the needle rifle, take out the grunts, and then make a speedy, tasty frame rate exit. Now we're on to Long Night of Solace. The start is alright, you have a pretty significant team to help you out, so you'll move up pretty easily and get aboard your Saber. After leaving Reach and going to space, we face a unique section of gameplay as we do space battles. For some reason, when 343 ported the game, something changed, making the Seraph fighters far more aggressive. So, to survive, we'd peek behind Anchor 9, occasionally peek out and take out a fighter, and then repeat as needed. This section can be long, but we eventually get through. For the Phantoms, 2 waves of unguided missiles will take them out, so with some risky maneuvering we can deal with them. After, we can let our allies clean up the rest, and we occasionally pop out and take out one of our own. We then take off for the Corvette, and we repeat the same space battle action until we get aboard. Boarding inside the actual ship can be difficult, but with some patience we get through. We even bring some Marines along. They promptly die in the next section. We hide behind this corner with a shotgun and make things dead until George comes aboard. After that, we go to the bridge, narrowly avoiding the sweet embrace of death, and then go back to George. We then get to fight some elite majors. This mission felt really long and tedious, that being that most of the close quarter fighting without any real maneuvering options was beginning to break my sanity. From there we get to go to the mission of Exodus. This mission was also painful. The start of the Suicide Grunts is alright, just get the armor lock and hope that your mouse pad registers the pressing of the key. After that we get to fight some brutes. While there is a sniper up here, we can also just sneak by the enemies and leave the civilians to their fate. Some Marines even spawn in to replace the ones we left behind. Nice. We then fight up this stair section to the elevator. Unfortunately, the elevator is stuck until all the enemies are dead. We're low on decent weapon ammo at this point, so I found out that going back down the stairs, fighting the enemies that spawned down there, and then fighting all the way back up was the best way to get through this section. Some civilians even survived, so all is well. The next section after the elevator descent is the jetpack section. We meet up with ODSTs, truly the best of the best of the best. Again, slow but persistent firefight progress is the way to go through here. We eventually get to this wall section, and we eventually make our way up, watching for this chieftain with the fuel rod gun. He'll mess up your day if you don't keep track of him. We can later use his fuel rod to take out the enemies in the final area. A single shot will take out these shades if you hit them right. We then get to take a falcon ride, being on legendary, point and click, and after landing, get this warthog and then go clear out these wraiths. From there we can then sneak in and press these AA buttons. After you press the first two, a bunch of enemies spawn between us and the last button. Fortunately, we can make our way inside and then jetpack through the window, and then quickly hit the button and then flee before you get hammered by a chieftain. Speedrun strats. The next mission primarily involves flying. You have the ability to fly and gun with the mouse, so just keep your wits about you and it won't be too different from regular gameplay. The randomly selected missions probably won't be more difficult. The Synoviate building is a little slow going in, but once you're inside, you're fine. Head in, go up the elevator, hit the jammer, and then run like hell back to the elevator and hope the drones don't get you. At the club, clear out the entrance by air and then enter. Once you go inside, you don't actually need to kill these hunters, just deactivate the jammer. The troopers, they'll be fine. The hospital section is probably the most painful of the 3 guaranteed sections. That being said, it can be done, it's just slow. After these sections, we can take a final flight and finish up the mission. The package has an easy enough start. Use a DMR to pick off the shades and ghosts. From here we get this scorpion and then we can advance. The turrets can be destroyed from a distance easily. The final scorpion section requires you to know exactly where the enemies spawn to preemptively shoot them, as maneuvering out of the way after they fire is difficult. Eventually though you can take them all out and advance. Pushing into the actual base really depends on your weapons. I didn't really have any good weapons at this point, so I kinda just sat back and gave thumbs up to my teammates as they took out the enemies. But once we got inside, I found a DMR and could finally do things for myself. I'm a big boy now. We proceed to the next section, and the elites in here aren't too hard, just make sure to take out the engineer. A general then peeks out, so make sure to eliminate him. And then we get to the final section of this level. I was able to use a grenade launcher, take down a banshee, and bomb some stuff from the air. and then landed near the end for a final defense of the section. Mostly this was easy enough, except for this bloody general. That being said, we eventually finish and move on to Pillar of Autumn. Because we don't have a melee, I'm not going for this jump here. But fighting this engagement is hard, and running is easy. We then get to take a relaxing drive across the Reach countryside. Eventually we reach a roadblock, and after eliminating the enemies, I boarded the Wraith, only to find out I had no way to actually kill this thing. Eventually I jumped on top of it, blasted my way through the roof, and got the pilot. Nice. We then get to travel through this cave. Hope you have a DMR and slowly pick off the drones, otherwise they'll wreck you faster than you can believe. From here we arrive at the shipbreaking yard. There's a fight going on, so I ran across the right side and sped ran my way through this section. Speed. Eventually, though, we hit this section, which is annoying because even if you skip it, the elites come and ambush you from behind, so you have to fight this one. And by this point, I'm out of ranged ammo, so I have to go and kill these guys with shotguns and assault rifles. But alas, I was eventually able to push through, which then brings on to hunters, the exact same thing as before. Fortunately, I ran to the left side, hid behind here, managed to shotgun the skirmishers, and hit a checkpoint. Around this point, with a shotgun I was starting to get more comfortable and ballsy, so I began close quarter fighting the hunters. This was actually kind of fun, and I eventually got them both. We then get a sweet DMR, and proceed to delete these jackals and progress. We finally hit the landing pad. The fight here is a bit long and tedious, but there's a sniper upstairs, shotgun ammo down below, so pick your battles and use your terrain, and eventually you'll prevail. The final real fight is against the Zealot Squadron. This requires you to pick off the Zealots one by one. If you can lure them out into a wide open space, pull out your shotgun and get close enough for them to charge you, you might be able to evade his hits and take him down. After taking out this last Zealot with a fuel rod, we then take control of the mass driver, which this section is pretty much the same as standard gameplay. And after taking down the cruiser, we've beaten Halo Reach using just a mouse. Yes, I know there's Lone Wolf, but that doesn't really count. This was a very unique challenge. On one hand, it's a fairly unique way to play the game, but some sections are just flat out infuriating to play. Knowing that you're missing mechanics that could easily allow you to complete the section is infuriating. But the game is beatable, even on Legendary. If you want to try it, I'd say you'd probably have more fun going on a Legendary difficulty, but I'm not your dad, so you can play on Legendary if you wish. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. If this video hits 50 likes, I'll try beating Combat Evolved with a steering wheel. I'm not joking, I'll buy one. Have fun and bye.